Hey, what's up guys, it's Daniel, and in my last video I gave you guys 3 reasons why in my opinion PC gaming sucks. I do believe all 3 reasons are for the most part true. The thing is that while I can argue that PCs are expensive, I can also say, well, if you want it to be. In the video I kinda half-assed explained that I have an expensive CPU and GPU, which is true. But the thing is that I didn't have to buy these parts if I wanted it to be cheaper. I could have gone with an AMD FX 8350, which is at least $100 cheaper and is an 8-core CPU, while my i7 has only 4 cores. Now the difference in terms of gaming is about 5 to 15 frames a second less than the i7, which is still pretty good, and you're still going to max out most games. I could have spent $650 to $800 for a very nice and beefy AMD gaming PC instead of spending around $1,100 to $1,250 for my gaming PC. I also, with this build, went for a 1000 watt power supply that cost around $250 when I could have gone with a 500 watt power supply that only cost $60 and it would have been fine if I wanted to go cheaper. I'll show you guys a simple $400 beginner gaming PC or $500 gaming PC, depending if you add the Windows license to the pricing. Now, for every build I've ever done, I maintain one aspect that is always on my mind: future-proofing. What I mean by that is that after you finish your build, your new gaming PC, maybe down the road, like 6 months from now, you want to put more storage or more memory, a better graphics card, you could most likely do that. The only problem with this build is the horrible looking and not that spacious case. Now, this CPU I chose for this build is an AMD FX 4350 4-core CPU. I have built 2 systems with this CPU, and let me tell you, even though it's a 4-core CPU, it's known to overheat just a bit. Most AMD CPUs already do anyway, compared to the Intel CPUs. But it's a great entry-level CPU. This CPU is for $89 on Newegg.com and also on Amazon.com for around $88. All items that I list will have links on the bottom of the description. The motherboard I went with is the MSI 760G MA-P34FX at $50. It's a nice cheap motherboard with all the features that really matter. The memory is also self-explanatory for the $30 price. This is the Mushkin Enhanced 8GB DDR3 memory, and it's really worth it. I also went with a Toshiba 1TB hard drive at $49 because the terabyte is now basically standard. Downloading 30 to 50 gig games, it really needs a spacious hard drive, so it's a must. The DIYPC MA08-BK entry-level gaming PC case was a simple choice for $26. It's spacious enough to have support up to 315 millimeters for the graphics card, which is around 12 inches, which is surprisingly big. My GTX 970 could fit in this case. Has some blue LED fans already installed, so that's a good thing, and you could also install another fan on the side to cool off the graphics card. The only 2 things I have a problem with this case is that it only supports for a micro ATX motherboard, and the hard drive cage is non-modular. But with this case at its price, you have to make sacrifices. The power supply I went with is the Solid Gear SDGR-450BR 80 plus bronze power supply. I mean, it's 450 watts, it's $40. It'll have sufficient power for everything in this build, and it'll do fine even if you upgrade the CPU in the future, the memory, and a bit more hard drives, or even a more powerful GPU like a GTX 950 or even a GTX 960 2 gig edition. Though I wouldn't recommend to upgrade to a beefier, more powerful GPU like a 970 with this power supply. But if you are planning to committing yourself on the future-proofing concept like me, then you can instead spend a bit more on a powerful power supply like this EVGA 100-B1-600KR 80 plus bronze 600 watt power supply. This power supply could handle most consumer GPUs, even my GTX 970. Now last but not least, the GPU I went with is the Zotac GTX 750 Ti for the price of $105. It's the most expensive piece of hardware in this build. I could also go with the PowerColor R7 362 gig, which is only $5 less than the 750 Ti. I chose this to keep the AMD theme, and for those of you who are going with DX12 on Windows 10, this GPU is native DX12. Although none of these cards are hardcore GPUs, it will do 720p gaming like a champ, and could do some 1080p gaming maxed out if the games have been out for several years. I personally have not tried these cards, but reading reviews and seeing gameplay footage on YouTube, they both have really good potential. With all this said, the total price is $382.93 if you go with the GTX 750 and the 450 power supply. If you're watching this before the deal on Newegg ends on the 25th of February, they have some of their items on this list. You could get $10 off. You could add $100 to the price for the Microsoft license if you're going with any Windows Home Edition. So our gaming PC's expensive. This build is a very good build. Just like I mentioned earlier in the video, I future-proof my systems as much as I can with the budget I have in time. In this build, if let's say in the future I wanted to upgrade my CPU, this motherboard is compatible with it if it is an AMD CPU, obviously. If I wanted more drives in my system, I could do that. If I wanted an SSD, or if I wanted a GTX 970 and I had the 600 watt power supply, I could. This system is just an example of how cheap PC parts are. If you do some research and you're doing some digging, you could find really good prices on parts. I also wanted to do this video just in case someone in the comment section says that I'm a fanboy of consoles or I'm an idiot. Usually the latter follows the first anyway. But I'll see you guys next time. I'll leave you with the gameplay footage just playing. Alright, see you next time.
Mission failed. New assignments incoming.
What are we? Recruits?